Star Wars 7x7, episode 1972. They fly now! They fly now? They fly now. Yep, they do. And so let's talk a little bit of history as far as jetpacks in the Star Wars universe go, and put some context around the notion of First Order jet troopers appearing in The Rise of Skywalker. Punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. So, that footage from Good Morning America that dropped earlier this week, first of all, J.J. Abrams tells us that this is a scene that happens early on in the movie, so that's kind of fascinating that the Pisana scenes happen early on in the movie. It's interesting to know. But that scene, if you haven't seen it yet, shows the Imperial, listen to me, the First Order tread speeder. That was the thing that was revealed at Celebration Chicago, the giant life-size model that they had on display there. And we've seen them just very briefly in action in previous footage that we've seen. This is the first time that we actually got to see them going full tilt boogie. And not only do they do that, but they also cantilever up and launch these jet troopers into the air. And so this comes as a big surprise to everybody. And yeah, not only do Threepio and Finn and Poe all go, they fly now, but Chewbacca kind of gives a growl too that probably means they fly now also, but he wasn't on the same speeder with Threepio and Poe and Finn, so, you know, he's probably just telling Ray, and so I don't think you can count it in the whole thing, but yeah, 4 they fly nows, that's pretty impressive. And for all we know, BB-8 saw it happening and was like, you know, which translates to they fly now. But the way this is depicted is, of course, a new thing. And so I thought, well, let's look back at the canon and see what we have in terms of troopers flying around with jetpacks. And it's not as uncommon as I might have thought. I went into it thinking there was a possibility that only the Mandalorians had this stuff, and so maybe it was really rare to see it out and about. But that's not actually the case, and, you know, additionally, when you consider the fact that the Mandalorians had a lot of interaction with the Galactic Republic and the Empire, you can certainly make a case for the Empire or the Galactic Republic having the technology or having access to the technology to be able to figure it out on their own. I'm not sure entirely whether that's the case, whether that's how it worked out. What I do know is that there were clone jet troopers in the Galactic Republic. They showed up in a couple of episodes of the Clone Wars TV series. And eventually, according to Wikipedia, as the Republic gave way to the Galactic Empire, the jetpack troopers were replaced by jump troopers. And the notion of a jump trooper was actually introduced first in the mobile game Star Wars Commander. So it was actually brought back into the canon. I guess jump troopers had been a thing in the old expanded universe, but now, you know, they became a thing officially with that name, Jump Trooper, with Star Wars Commander. And I gather there are even specialized versions of these jump troopers. There's an Arctic jump trooper, which now, of course, I'm all about, and a forest jump trooper and a desert jump trooper. So this is a thing, and it appeared in Battlefront 2 also, the notion of a jump trooper. So this is a little bit wider of a phenomenon. Now, the reason why I came to it thinking about, you know, Mandalorians and thinking, well, maybe this isn't as widely known, goes back to the episode of The Mandalorian, the one that just came out, The Sin. This is chapter 3 in the Mandalorian series. And this is well, the way I'm going to phrase it is only a minor spoiler, but the notion of jetpacks for Mandalorians, considering that the Mandalorians are in hiding for all intents and purposes, and their silence and their secrecy is their strength right now. The notion of jetpacks not being a known quantity around the galaxy now that the Empire is gone, and I don't think there was any indication that the New Republic has any access to jetpack technology or anything like that. You would think that, you know, as a result, the Mandalorians are, you know, kind of keeping it to themselves. And so maybe for a good long while after the fall of the Empire, the notion of a jetpack, any kind of trooper, whether, you know, in armor like a stormtrooper or a clone trooper, or even out of armor, that it just doesn't necessarily exist. But yeah, I don't know if we can completely make that assumption, especially considering how, it does seem like the technology was at least militarily available, and so maybe it's possible that it is still experiencing military use throughout the galaxy all the way up until the time of the sequel era movies. But there's something really weird about the way that exchange happens in The Rise of Skywalker that suggests maybe the technology either disappeared or maybe something else happened. And I will explain what that weird thing is here in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Hey Rebel Rouser, I've made some changes to the asteroid belt level at patreon.com/SW7X7, and they are all with sponsors in mind. So if you want to get the word out about your business, your product, your service to a dedicated Star Wars audience, then please check out patreon.com/SW7X7 and look for the asteroid belt level for details. Again, that's patreon.com/SW7X7.
Welcome back. So the weird thing about this situation is the way Finn delivers his "they fly now." He delivers it as a question, like, "they fly now?" And the reason that's weird is because The Rise of Skywalker takes place just a little more than a year after the events of The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, because The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi happened one right after the other. And Finn was a First Order Stormtrooper right up until the beginning of The Force Awakens. So it's been more than a year since he's been out of the First Order, but it's only been just over a year. And there were no jet troopers in the First Order prior to Finn's departure, which suggests that jet troopers in the First Order have been there for less than 2 years, that this is actually a new situation for the First Order. So that kind of raises two questions. First of all, why did it take them so long to get jet troopers? And secondly, where did they suddenly get it from or come up with it? Well, something that I think might be a potential clue in that regard is the notion of a Sith jet trooper. This is already an action figure that has been introduced, and so we know that there's going to be a Sith jet trooper as well as a First Order jet trooper. We know that Sith troopers are getting involved in this whole fray, but we don't know how they become involved. We don't know if they're already in business by the time The Rise of Skywalker starts, or if there's been something happening in the background, or what's going on. But it stands to reason that if the First Order didn't have this technology, and Kylo Ren has been searching out connections to the dark side of the Force, and if Palpatine, in whatever manifestation he's going to show up in The Rise of Skywalker, has a bunch of Sith troopers kicking around, this is complete supposition on my part. I have no idea if Palpatine is linked to the Sith troopers in any way. I'm just noting the fact that Palpatine had Sith followers of various stripes while he was really in power during the original trilogy era. So the notion of Sith troopers and Palpatine would be experienced with the notion of jetpack troopers or jump troopers from his Galactic Republic days and his Empire days. So maybe the Sith jet troopers are where the First Order got the notion of jet troopers from. I don't know. We'll see. There's obviously still more to be revealed. But yeah, that scene was kind of like, huh? The First Order jetpack trooper. This is actually a new development for the First Order. Fascinating. And there you go. That's everything you ever wanted to know about jetpack troopers and jump troopers, but were afraid to ask. And that is going to do it for this episode of the show as well. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox. It is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other related Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2019 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.